I'm very excited today to be in a position where we can explain what's going on with the egg harvesting legislation that the Queensland Government has just passed. This legislation is going to be catastrophic for crocodiles, and against all the advice from the most comprehensive science conducted today on crocodiles and their behavior, the legislation has been passed. Removing 5,000 eggs from the wild this year will be a huge detriment to the apex predators that need our protection. And on the world stage, it's incredibly disappointing and embarrassing. I've been consulting with the state and federal government for the past 26 years on this very issue. As recently as last year with the Minister of Environment, Great Barrier Reef, Science and the Arts. And in spite of sharing the world's best practice research and the most comprehensive study with crocodilians ever done on planet Earth and explaining why this would be a bad idea, it went ahead anyway. And I have got no idea why. It makes no sense for an environmental point of view. It benefits one of the smallest industries in Australia. The actual practice is incredibly cruel. We've gotten our chickens out of cages. We're treating our pigs and cattle kinder. We're making sure live exports of sheep is more heavily regulated. And yet we've got thousands of crocodiles jammed together in small areas where they're ripping their jaws and legs and tails apart until they cop a bullet and get turned into boutique items for rich people. I'm mystified. I can't figure it out. I'd love to hear why the Australian and Queensland government want to support this industry. It makes no sense on any level. But I do know that we can change this. We can sign a petition, we can talk to our politicians, and in mass we can make this change. And Steve was one person. He made huge strides towards protecting crocodiles. I think as Australians, standing up and being proud about protecting our wildlife is something that we can do together to make positive change.
Yeah, well, the removal of 5,000 eggs from the wild population of crocodiles is a really catastrophic number, because if you think 5,000 eggs, that's 5,000 crocodiles that could possibly be hatching out. And by removing such a huge quantity, you're really putting the entire ecosystem at risk. With all of the research that we've done over the years and all of the time and effort and money that my mum and dad put in historically to learning about these animals, we found that crocodiles, they really take care of everything within the ecosystem. So by removing that apex predator, you can really see this dramatic knock-on effect with all of the fish, the mud crabs, the mammalian life in the area as well. So you'll see the river systems in northern Queensland that will certainly be affected by this. So that's why we're so passionate about hopefully rolling back this legislation, hopefully making this less severe at least, because if we're removing 5,000 crocodiles from the ecosystem, we'll definitely see dramatic effects very soon.
And we're also concerned about the policing. The policing system and the science system that's been requested is for the very people removing the eggs to make sure they take the correct number of eggs from these remote locations, to make sure that the young crocodile population numbers aren't affected, and that the overall crocodile numbers aren't affected. Our research has indicated there are dozens of crocodiles in river systems, not even hundreds. After 12 years of catching crocodiles at the Steve Irwin Wildlife Reserve, we have 175 crocodiles in our study system. So we're not even seeing hundreds of crocs. So this is a compromise that is very curious. Why? When we ask the question, the answers we get are also confusing. The Department of Environment is saying this is going to be good for crocodiles because with less hatchlings, they have more of a chance of success. What? So everything eats a baby crocodile. They're this big. Fish, birds of prey, all kinds of animals prey on baby crocs. If you've got less crocodiles being preyed on by the same predators, clearly you'd have less crocodiles. And then the science they're quoting is curious as well. In 26 years, I haven't found the ability to track baby crocs. Now science is coming out with a tracker that you can actually implant in a hatchling crocodile, which, if the crocodile is eaten, dissolves, and you can then track the animal that ate them. This is such new science, we can't even get our hands on it yet. That's the future science. And yet the department is quoting numbers as if they know. They don't. We don't know if 1 in 200 hatchlings survive to maturity, 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000. But I'll tell you what we do know. We do know that baby crocodiles, just like sea turtles, hatch out a male or a female depending on the temperature. And with climate change, everything's getting warmer. So we're going to see more of a single gender of crocodiles than multiple genders. That's going to be a catastrophe. Then removing the eggs further compromises them. And I'm suggesting if we can leave this ecosystem alone, we've got a better chance for our healthy rivers. Do you know the Wenlock River has the highest biodiversity of freshwater fish in the entire country? That's because it has the most crocodiles. When we compromise crocodiles and we start losing the river's integrity, that's where we're going to find out that water is our most valuable resource, and you can't eat money.
Is there a number of eggs that would be okay to harvest, in your opinion, or not at all?
Saying can we have a sustainable number of eggs to harvest is like saying that with any species. Do you really think that because palm cockatoos are threatened, that if we took their eggs, hatched the babies, and made fascinators out of their feathers, that it would help the species? Clearly it wouldn't. Clearly protection is now what we're looking at, and complete protection, because there's a reason and a cycle for the number of eggs that we have. Removing any eggs is like the lottery system with crocodiles. Were those the only eggs that we're going to successfully hatch? They're already under great stress from fire, flood, predation. We really can't affect positive change with crocodiles if we're going to upset the apple cart in any way, shape, or form. We found as we're enduring the 6th great extinction that this extinction rate is happening at 1,000 times greater than any other extinction rate on history. Do we really want to take any kind of chance with that? Or can we manage crocodiles in a way that includes educating people, getting more Queensland Indigenous land and sea rangers, going into our school systems and working with our tourism boards? I think when it comes to crocodile management, we need to look at educating people more so than trying somehow to control crocodiles. But it's still not clear from the government why we're doing this, and why, when our graziers are struggling so much right now, we're helping a leather trade that deals with wildlife that is extremely unkind in their farming practices and represents such a small portion of industry.
So
Who stands to benefit from this? Is it just those that are associated with the leather trade, or are there others as well?
The people who stand to benefit from this is a very, very good question. I am mystified as to why the government would take such a stance when, more so than at any other point in time on planet Earth, we need to protect our apex predators. Clearly, the commercial gain is going to be with the people who are selling the skins. And it is a trade that we need to start curtailing. We can't continue to have the international trade in wildlife, or we're going to lose it. The apex predator is particularly important for the same reason, say, wolves in America are. For decades, Yellowstone National Park has not had wolves. They've reintroduced wolves, and in a matter of just a few years, not only do wolves eat deer and elk and buffalo, they scare them. So the deer and elk and bison go, "Don't go into the valley, there's wolves." And the result is plant species have grown that haven't been there for decades. The river's seen fish return, beaver have built dams, and the whole valley has gotten well just from reintroducing wolves. If you look at tide pools, studies shown if you take the predator starfish out of a tide pool, you'd think all of the mussels and anemones would go, "Hooray!" Actually, the whole tide pool dies. So apex predators are so critically important that if you were going to do anything with any species, it shouldn't be an apex predator.
Terry,